My wife's old flame died. My wife, who always insisted we be child-free, secretly used his frozen embryos to get pregnant. She even posted a photo on social media as a tribute. True love means ensuring a part of you remains in this world, even after you're gone. Everyone was waiting for my reaction, her husband's reaction. But I simply commented casually, if the love was that deep, maybe you should just stay his widow. After posting that comment, I turned off my phone and booked the next international flight out. I didn't turn my phone back on until I was walking down a street in Paris. Meng Ruoshi called immediately. Where did you run off to? Why weren't you answering your phone? The moment I answered, she launched into a furious tirade. I replied calmly, abroad. My phone was off. That seemed to fuel her rage instantly. Don't you know I'm pregnant? How could you just run off abroad by yourself? Have you got any sense of responsibility, any sense of duty as a man? I suddenly found it ridiculous. She always resorts to blaming me, even though the child she's carrying isn't even mine. But I couldn't be bothered to argue. I simply said, tonelessly, let's get divorced when I get back. Without waiting for her reaction, I hung up. I lit a cigarette, standing on the Parisian street, and watching the smoke curl into the air. My emotions seemed to dissipate along with it. For years, I had tried my best to be a good husband, carefully navigating our marriage. Whenever issues arose, regardless if it was right or wrong, I was always the one to concede first, enduring her endless berating. The slightest, unintentional hint of tenderness from her was enough to leave me feeling completely satisfied. In this marriage, she exercised all the rights of the one being loved, carelessly squandering my affection as if it were her due. As the cigarette burned out, so did the last wisp of my lingering affection for her. Senior Wei, a crisp female voice pulled me from my reverie. I turned to see Xie Yingying, my junior from university. She was the one who had invited me to Paris in the first place. We found a nearby cafe and sat down. Xie Yingying got straight to the point. Senior Wei, have you given any more thought to the opportunity one told you about? We studied the same major in university. After graduation, she chose to pursue further studies abroad and eventually establish herself at a Fortune 500 company. She had contacted me because her company had an opening for head of the Asia-Pacific region that was a perfect fit for my skills and experience. I had turned her down several times before, prioritizing my marriage and family. But time had proven just how foolish that decision was. So this time, I didn't hesitate. I've made my decision. I'll take the opportunity. Xie Yingying beamed, her eyes crinkling with pleasure. That's fantastic news, Senior Wei. I'm so glad you've decided. I'll start making arrangements immediately. The CEO will interview you personally. Don't be nervous, she added. With your capabilities, I'm sure you'll have no problem. As soon as I landed back in the country, I got a text from Meng Ruoshi. She said she wanted to pick me up from the airport herself and take me home. In 7 years of marriage, I'd never received such treatment. Usually, she'd be out shopping, and one call from her meant I had to drop everything and show up immediately, no matter what I was doing. But I had no intention of letting her pick me up. I deleted the text and walked straight out of the airport. I hailed a cab by the roadside and went straight home. Once home, I started working on my resume. Although I was perfectly qualified for the position and had the support of an internal recommendation from Xie Yingying, my junior, I still wanted to be thoroughly prepared. Years of hard work had earned me considerable qualifications and experience. As I filled them all into my resume, I realized dusk had slowly fallen. I glanced at my phone and saw several missed calls from Meng Ruoshi. Just then, I heard the sound of a key turning in the lock, and the door opened. Meng Ruoshi stormed in, pulled out her car keys, and slammed them onto the table in front of me. Do you have any idea how long I waited at the airport? 3 whole hours. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I came back early, I explained nonchalantly. What were a mere few hours of waiting compared to everything I'd put up with before? You, she gritted her teeth, glaring at me, her expression suddenly turning ugly. I came to pick you up personally, while pregnant. I was already doing you a huge favor. Don't push your luck. I shot her a cool glance. Is it mine? Meng Ruoshi froze for a moment, then frowned, staring at me. Does it really matter if it's yours? Weren't we supposed to be dink? Now, if there's a child to look after you in your old age, isn't that a good thing? Her logic was always so twisted. It was as if her getting pregnant now, despite originally wanting to be child-free, was some kind of blessing bestowed upon me, even if I wasn't the father. But she seemed to forget that being dink had been her decision in the first place. Out of love for her back then, I'd compromised. But after compromising for so long, she seemed to view it as my obligation. You're right, it doesn't matter. Let's go get a divorce tomorrow. After that, you can have kids with whoever you want. After sending the finished resume to Xie Yingying, I closed my laptop ready to head to my room and rest. That sentence seemed to infuriate her completely. She pointed a finger at me, her voice icy. You said it, Wei Sinian. Don't you dare regret this. I slept soundly that night and arrived bright and early at the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day. I waited until noon, but Meng Ruoshi never showed. My patience ran out. I contacted my lawyer directly to draft the divorce papers. Just then my phone rang. It was the hospital. Mr. Wei, this is the hospital. Your wife has had an emergency. We need you to come down immediately. Ever since getting pregnant via frozen embryo transfer, Meng Ruoshi had been going to the hospital for checkups every few days, terrified something might go wrong. I didn't particularly want to go, but I still needed her signature on the divorce papers. After a moment's thought, I agreed. When I arrived at the hospital, I found Meng Ruoshi lying in a bed. A doctor stopped me outside the room, looking displeased. Look, I don't mean to overstep, but as her husband, you've never once come with her to a prenatal checkup. Don't you realize how taxing a pregnancy via frozen embryo transfer is on the body? I looked at the doctor, my voice flat. What if it's not mine? Not yours? But the doctor froze, staring blankly at me. After a moment, a flicker of sympathy crossed his face. He patted my shoulder and sighed. I walked into the room. Meng Ruoshi was there, along with her parents at her bedside. Honey, Meng Ruoshi said the moment she saw me, her expression instantly turning pitiful. The doctor says my health isn't great, and I've been so anxious lately. It might affect the baby. What's it got to do with me? I kept my expression neutral and simply nodded. Oh, then make sure you eat well and rest up. Smack! Meng Ruoshi's father, Meng Kuan, instantly lost his temper. He slammed his hand on the hospital bed, jumping up to glare at me. My daughter married you, and look at the miserable life she leads. She even has to go to her prenatal checkups alone. Are you even a man? I shot him a sideways glance. You're a man. Why don't you tell your wife to go have a kid with someone else? You. Meng Kuan looked like he was about to explode, rolling up his sleeves as if to hit me. The doctor quickly intervened, warning him that this was a hospital and they'd call the police if he started anything. Only then did Meng Kuan reluctantly back down. Meng Ruoshi's mother, Huang Chui, stepped towards me, her expression earnest. Wait, dear, Ruoshi is still your wife after all. Regardless of whose child it is, don't you bear any responsibility at all. Don't try to guilt-trip me. I had no patience for playing games and dropped all pretense. My only responsibility should have been sending your whole family and the father of the thing in her belly straight to hell. With that, I pulled out the divorce papers and tossed them onto the bed in front of Meng Ruoshi. Sign them. After this, I don't care how you play widow. Wei Sinian, do you really have to be so heartless? Meng Ruoshi tossed the divorce papers aside, her expression complicated as she looked at me. I shook my head. It's not me being heartless. It's you who's treated our 7 years of marriage like a joke from the very beginning. Right after we got married, Meng Ruoshi was utterly devoted to Bai Jingyi, the man she never forgot. The time that sticks out most was a few years ago. I had a severe stomach ailment, collapsing at home in so much pain, I almost went into shock. With my last bit of consciousness, I called her, wanting her to come back and take me to the hospital. But she said she was celebrating Bai Jingyi's birthday and told me not to bother her, just to take some medicine myself if I was sick. If my junior, Xie Yingying, hadn't arranged for an ambulance for me all the way from abroad, I might have actually died from the pain that time. Incident after incident like this piled up. I endured it without lashing out before, but this pregnancy was the final straw. I've lost my last shred of patience with her. I haven't cheated. I never had any physical relationship with Jingyi. Even this pregnancy is from his frozen embryo. You can't even tolerate such a small thing. Meng Ruoshi clearly didn't think she'd done anything wrong. In her eyes, even though she was carrying another man's child, as long as they hadn't had sex, it wasn't cheating. I replied coldly. When you were with me, you claimed to be child-free, insisting that not having children was your bottom line. How come a moment Bai Jingyi dies, that bottom line is so easily overturned? Meng Ruoshi stiffened, her face flushing guiltily. She stammered for a moment before forcing out a defense. Jingyi is already dead. Why are you being so petty? Even though I'm carrying his child, you're the one I love. Her words made me laugh, a bitter, angry sound. I completely lost interest in arguing with her further. I picked up the divorce papers and placed them back on the hospital bed. Sign these papers or don't. It's up to you. If you don't want to part ways amicably, then we'll see each other in court. With that, I turned and walked out of the hospital room. That night, I called up a few buddies to go drinking and drown my sorrows. When they heard I was divorcing Meng Ruoshi, not a single one felt sorry for me. Instead, they all celebrated my escape from misery. After a few rounds of drinks, I was feeling pretty buzzed. In a daze, I thought I saw my junior, Xie Yingying, walking towards me. Egged on by my friends, Xie Yingying sat down beside me. I asked her, "What are you doing back?" Xie Yingying looked concerned. "I heard about the divorce, so I hopped on the first flight back to check on you. Are you okay?" I shook my head, smiling, and took a sip from my glass. I've never been better. Seeing I was doing all right, Xie Yingying relaxed and clinked glasses with me, joining the drinking. Just then, my phone rang again. Seeing it was Meng Ruoxi, I immediately declined the call. But soon after, she sent a text. "Hubby, where are you? I'll come pick you up and take you home." I didn't know what game she was playing this time, so I didn't reply. Eventually, I just turned off my phone. But about 10 minutes later, Meng Ruoxi still managed to find me. Seeing me drinking at the bar, Meng Ruoxi's expression almost instinctively turned cold. She used to despise it whenever I drank outside, even if it was for unavoidable work events. The slightest smell of alcohol on me was practically a cardinal sin in her eyes. But this time, she seemed to restrain herself. She walked over to my side, doing her best to sound gentle. "Honey, let's go home." Her sudden attempt to curry favor felt jarring. Unfortunately, I was long past the stage where even the slightest hint of warmth from her could make my day. "Can't you see I'm drinking with my buddies?" I shot her an irritated glance and went back to clinking glasses with the guys beside me. But to my surprise, Meng Ruoxi didn't argue. She just nodded, told me to take it easy on the drinks, and then sat down by herself off to the side. It looked like she planned to wait until I was done drinking so we could go home together. That really threw me. In the past, I wouldn't have put it past her to flip the table right then and there. Not that this changed how I felt about her. I spared her a glance and decided to ignore her. But my buddies exchanged wide-eyed glances. One leaned in close and whispered, "Brother Wei, looks like your wife is afraid of losing you." As she had a change of heart. I hadn't told them about Meng Ruoxi being pregnant and wasn't about to explain. I just waved dismissively. "Forget about her. Let's drink." Xie Yingying glanced over at Meng Ruoxi, but didn't say anything else. Once everyone started leaving, I watched Xie Yingying and the others go. Only then did Meng Ruoxi, who had been waiting off to the side, come over and take my arm. "Honey, you've had a lot to drink. I'll make you some tea to help with the alcohol when we get home." Now that we were alone, I had no interest in playing along. I shook her hand off my arm. "Meng Ruoxi, you must be exhausted keeping up this act. Since you're still so hung up on Bai Jingyi, why keep clinging to me?" Tears welled in Meng Ruoxi's eyes, her voice thick with emotion. "Honey, I never, ever meant to betray you. Carrying Jingyi's child. It was only because he passed away so suddenly. As his friend, I just wanted to give him a legacy. That's all. You didn't betray me? You just got pregnant with another man's child? Meng Ruoxi, listen to yourself. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds?" I pulled a cigarette from my pocket and lit it, taking a long drag before sighing. "You should have known the consequences when you made that choice. Just sign the divorce papers already. Let's stop wasting each other's time." "No, please don't." Pain twisted Meng Ruoxi's features. "There's a cooling off period for divorce. We're still legally married during that time." I nodded. "Fine. Wait until your cooling off period is over. I'll come back for the signed papers then." Meng Ruoxi clutched my arm again, her voice pleading. "Honey, please, can we just go home? I promise I'll listen to you from now on. I'll try my best to be an attentive and caring wife. Save it for your next husband." I pulled my arm free again, hailed a cab on the street, and got in. Through the taxi's rearview mirror, I saw Meng Ruoxi crouched on the sidewalk, head buried in her knees. The picture of helplessness and desolation. But she had brought all of this on herself. After leaving the bar, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a hotel long-term. My plan was to stay there until the divorce was official, minimizing how often I had to see Meng Ruoxi. That night, Xie Yingying told me the CEO of her Fortune 500 company was very impressed with my resume and wanted to conduct an online interview right away. Eager to leave this place that held so many painful memories, I borrowed a laptop from the hotel and did the international interview. Though they called it an interview, my resume clearly showed I was more than qualified for the position. It was really just a negotiation about the compensation package. As a major Fortune 500 company, they had deep pockets. Since the position was CEO for the entire Asia-Pacific region, they didn't hold back, offering me an annual salary in the millions. Naturally, I wasn't about to refuse an offer like that. We finalized the agreement that night. They gave me a month to handle the handover at my current job and finalize my divorce. The next morning, I went to my company to sort out my departure. My colleagues, and even my boss expressed regret at my leaving, but once they heard my next stop was a Fortune 500, they all congratulated me on reaching a new peak in my career. After the exit formalities were complete, my boss arranged a farewell dinner for me. After we'd eaten and drunk our fill, everyone was still in high spirits and suggested we head out for some karaoke. All eyes turned to me. They all knew me as the guy whose wife kept him on a tight leash. Coming home late usually meant guaranteed trouble. But this time, I actually smiled and nodded. No problem. Let's make a night of it. Seeing me agree, everyone cheered, teasing that I'd finally decided to stand up for myself. I just smiled silently. In the private KTV room, my colleagues were belting out songs off-key, while I listlessly scrolled through my phone. Xia Yingying had just sent me a message congratulating me. I smiled and texted back, promising to treat her to dinner in a couple of days. As I was texting, a notification popped up on my phone. Bai Jingyi's Weibo account had a new post. Curious, I tapped on it. It turned out to be a post from Bai Jingyi's parents. They found out about Meng Ruoxi using the frozen embryo to get pregnant. Knowing their late son was going to have a child, they were overcome with emotion. They publicly thanked Meng Ruoxi on Weibo, stating they would treat her as their own daughter-in-law from now on. Along with the post was an old photo of Meng Ruoxi and Bai Jingyi. They were cheek to cheek, looking intimate and radiant, the very picture of a perfect couple. Meng Ruoxi had commented below the post, "Uncle, Annie, I will take good care of Jingyi's child, our child. From now on, I'll care for you both as if you were my own parents." The whole thing had stirred up quite a bit of public discussion online. Netizens were praising Meng Ruoxi's actions as incredibly selfless, a display of great love. Yet, no one seemed to mention the fact that she was currently married. If this had happened before, I would have been trembling with rage, wanting nothing more than to drive straight over there and demand an explanation. This time, however, I felt completely unmoved. I simply left a calm reply under Meng Ruoxi's comment. "Congratulations." Then I went back to texting Xia Yingying. Moments later, my phone rang. It was Meng Ruoxi. "Congratulations? What's that supposed to mean? You're still jealous, aren't you?" My comment was just for show, playing along with public opinion. "Surely you understand that." Her explanation didn't stir any emotion in me. I replied flatly, "It means exactly what it says. I'm still out with my colleagues. Got to go." I was about to hang up, but she quickly cut in, "Wait, what will it actually take for you to drop this divorce?" That question actually stumped me, because the thought of not divorcing her had never even crossed my mind. From the moment she got pregnant, this marriage became a complete sham. When I didn't answer, Meng Ruoxi seemed to steel herself, like she'd made a difficult decision. "What if," she said, her voice tight, "what if I get rid of this baby?" "There's no need," I answered without hesitation. "Even if you got rid of it, there's no going back for us. Besides, from my perspective, Meng Ruoxi wouldn't actually do it. Bai Jingyi's importance to her was undeniable. If she actually went through with it, it would mean completely severing her last connection to him. Furthermore, this whole affair had already blown up publicly. If she actually went through with the abortion now, the ensuing backlash would likely drown her. She was only saying it to test me, to see if there was any shred of attachment left in me for her." Meng Ruoxi was silent on the other end for a long moment before finally asking, "Can you come over tonight? I want to talk." I refused without a second thought. "There's nothing for us to talk about except the divorce." "Please," Meng Ruoxi begged, her voice thick with tears and sincerity. "I know I wronged you. Before we finalize the divorce, just give me one chance to apologize, okay?" I wasn't sure if she genuinely understood her mistake, but wanting to expedite the divorce, I considered it for a moment before agreeing. "Fine." That one cold word seemed to instantly lift her spirits. "I'll wait for you then." After hanging up, my mind was no longer on the party. I mumbled a quick excuse and hastily took my leave. After leaving, I didn't go straight to meet her. Instead, I hailed a cab to the riverside. Sitting on the river embankment, I lit a cigarette and found myself lost in memories. This was where Meng Ruoxi and I had pledged our love. It was New Year's Eve. I'd spared no expense or effort, arranging a private fireworks display right here before proposing to her. Our love felt so pure back then, as if just having each other meant we owned the entire world. But then one day, after she heard Bai Jingyi was back in the country, something changed. From that moment, our love seemed to sour. The fireworks that lit up the sky 7 years ago had finally fizzled out. I stubbed out my cigarette and got to my feet. I said goodbye to this place and goodbye to my past. I took a cab home. As soon as I pushed the door open, the aroma of cooking filled the air. Meng Ruoxi was bustling around the kitchen in an apron. Seeing me, she smiled and wiped her hands. "Quick, wash up and eat. I made a lot of your favorites." I watched, surprised, as she brought dish after dish to the dining table. It had been so long since she'd cooked for me. I'd almost forgotten she knew how. Back when we first married, she was quite the doting wife, often preparing a feast for me when I got home from work. But ever since Bai Jingyi came into the picture, I hadn't received such treatment. I already ate out. I cut straight to the chase. Just tell me why you asked me here. Meng Ruoshi took off her apron, tied back her long hair, and pulled me over to sit at the table. It's been ages since I cooked for you. At least try some. I looked at the spread on the table. It all looked quite good. Clearly, she had put effort into it. But was this effort coming a little too late? Meng Ruoshi brought me a bowl and chopsticks, thoughtfully placed some food into the bowl, and pushed it in front of me. The aroma instantly hit me, and memories flooded my mind. Images from the past began to overlap with the present. She used to serve me food just like this, telling me with a beaming smile, "Husband, you go out and work hard to provide for us, and I'll be your rock at home." Back then, my heart felt full to bursting with happiness. I would playfully tap her nose and say softly, "All right, your husband will definitely work hard and give you a lifetime of happiness." For the next 7 years, I worked relentlessly to keep that promise. I often worked late into the night, sacrificing weekends and holidays for my job, but I never again came home to a table laden with food waiting for me. My thoughts returned to the present. I looked at the food in the bowl before me and pushed it away slightly. "I don't eat green onions." Meng Ruoshi brushed it off, still smiling as she picked up more food with the chopsticks. "Oh, come on, it's delicious. Just try it." I shook my head. "You must have forgotten. I'm allergic to green onions." It truly had been too long since she'd cooked for me. She'd even forgotten my allergies. Meng Ruoshi's hand froze midair. She looked at me, embarrassed. "Oh, I'm sorry, I cut off her explanation, my voice still calm. "You don't have to do all this. It won't change anything." "No, it can change. I've thought it all through." Meng Ruoshi suddenly grew agitated. "Isn't the problem that I was willing to get pregnant for Jingyi, but not for you? Well, I'm willing now. Husband, after I have this baby, I'll have one for you too. Let's not get divorced, okay?" As she spoke, she threw herself into my arms, even starting to unbutton her own clothes. I pushed her away and stood up, looking at her with a conflicted expression. "You have to understand," I said, "ever since you had those embryos frozen, there's been no turning back for us." "Honey, I was wrong." Meng Ruoshi suddenly burst into tears, sobbing brokenly. I just wanted to give the late Jing Yi a child. You always used to let me have my way, I thought. I thought you'd go along with it this time, too." Yes, always used to let her have her way. On our 3rd anniversary, I booked a restaurant, baked a cake myself, and bought the gift she'd always wanted. But I sat in that restaurant all night, and she never showed up. That day, I ate alone at the restaurant she'd always said she wanted to try. I ended up sharing our anniversary cake with the staff. They told me it was delicious, sweet, but I couldn't taste a thing. It wasn't until the next day that she explained. Apparently, Bai Jingyi had messed up at work and gotten fired, and she had spent the entire day comforting him. All along, my feelings were never that important. Meng Ruoshi was still crying, her shoulders trembling, looking utterly heartbroken. There was a time I couldn't bear to see her cry. The moment she shed a tear, my heart would ache as if pierced by a knife. I'd want nothing more than to pull her into my arms and wipe away her tears myself. But now I understand. Some people you just can't tame. I pulled out a tissue and set it down in front of her. "Dry your eyes yourself," I said. "If there's nothing else, I'm leaving." Don't go." Meng Ruoshi suddenly threw her arms around me from behind. "Stay with me. Just for tonight, please." Her body felt warm against my back, carrying that faint, familiar fragrance I once craved. But now I just wrinkled my nose, pried her arms off me, and walked out the door without looking back. The next evening, I arranged to meet Xia Yingying, planning to treat her to dinner. If it hadn't been for her this time, I might not have gotten such a great job opportunity. "Senior Wei, I knew you could do it." Xia Yingying looked at me with a sweet smile, raising her glass to toast. I smiled and clinked glasses with her. "Guess I'll be counting on you to look after me when I'm abroad." "No problem. Back in school, you were always helping me out, Senior Wei. Once we're abroad, we'll have each other to rely on." After saying this, Xia Yingying seemed to realize it could be taken the wrong way, and a faint blush crept onto her cheeks. I didn't think much of it, just smiled and let it pass. Xia Yingying then asked, "Senior Wei, what are your plans for the near future?" She knew I was dealing with a divorce, but didn't want to ask too directly. I didn't plan on hiding anything from her. So I said plainly, I'm planning to sell the house here and buy my parents a new place back in her hometown. I don't intend to come back to this city. Xia Yingying nodded. That makes sense. I know some friends who are real estate agents. I can ask around for you. That'd be a great help. Thank you. We had a few more drinks, until both our faces were a bit flushed, and then we decided to call a night. Walking out of the restaurant, I suddenly noticed the square outside was covered in candles arranged in the shape of a heart, drawing a crowd of onlookers. I wasn't interested in spectacles, but Xie Yingying was quite curious and pulled me closer to take a look. Senior Wei, isn't that your wife? Xie Yingying pointed at the woman standing inside the candle heart, her expression full of surprise. I looked up, and sure enough, it was Meng Ruoxi. She was wearing a wedding dress, standing in the middle of the candle heart, holding a bouquet of flowers. Hello, everyone. Meng Ruoxi spoke into a microphone connected to a speaker she'd prepared, addressing the crowd. I'm standing here today because I want to confess my feelings to the man I love most, and also to apologize to him. I've made many mistakes in the past, especially terrible ones recently. But it's because of those mistakes that I've realized the person I love most has always been him. Only him. But by the time I understood, it was too late. I broke his heart completely, and now he just wants a divorce. So I came here today to ask you all to be my witnesses. I want to win him back. I want to propose to him again, just like he proposed to me, hoping he'll give me a chance for us to start over. A woman taking the initiative like this often evokes sympathy. People in the crowd started cheering for her, encouraging her bravery. Senior Wei, what should we do? Xiangying looked at me. I frowned. This is pointless. Let's go. But just as I was about to leave, Meng Ruoxi seemed to spot me in the crowd and called out my name directly. Wei Xinyan. Seeing that the man of the hour had arrived, the surrounding people immediately parted to make way. Meng Ruoxi walked towards me in her wedding dress, a smile on her face. Did you hear what I just said? I nodded. Meng Ruoxi immediately held out the bouquet to me. Then can you forgive me? If you forgive me, I can go to the hospital right now and get an abortion. I understand now. Jing Yi is dead. You're the only one who matters to me. I want to have your children. I shook my head, sneering coldly. There's no need for that. Since you already betrayed me, don't betray him again after making your choice. Just be a good widow to him and raise his child. Just then, I felt raindrops on my face. Without any warning, the sky opened up. The crowd that had gathered to watch the spectacle quickly dispersed, leaving only Meng Ruoxi and me in the square, along with Xie Yingying, who stood nearby, waiting for me. We stood there in the downpour, letting the rain soak us completely. In an instant, Meng Ruoxi's wedding dress was drenched and stained by the muddy water, losing its original pristine white. And that dress, it was like our love. From a moment, it was sullied. The sacred meaning we had once given it ceased to exist. Xinyan, is there really no chance for us anymore? Meng Ruoxi stared blankly at me, rain streaming down her cheeks, smudging her carefully applied makeup. I couldn't tell if what ran from the corners of her eyes was rain or tears. I just shook my head. There's no point talking about this now. Just focus on having Bai Jingyi's child, and then find a man who loves you and start over. Hearing this, Meng Ruoxi seemed to laugh, a bitter, broken sound. No, no one will ever love me more than you did. I'm the one who threw you away. As she spoke, she sank to the ground, letting the hem of her long dress trail in the muddy water. For a moment, I felt a pang of disorientation. Through the falling rain, I seemed to see her standing before me in her wedding dress on our wedding day. The happiness we felt then was matched only by the weight crushing us now. It was undeniable how much we had loved each other once, but ultimately, she had betrayed me. I lapsed into silence, not continuing the conversation. Instead, I turned to Xie Yingying, who had been standing with us in the rain the whole time. Let's go. Xie Yingying nodded, glanced once more at Meng Ruoxi without a word, and silently fell in a step beside me. From the moment I turned away until we were long gone from the square, I never once looked back at Meng Ruoxi. I didn't know how she reacted after I left. Regretful? Grief-stricken? It no longer had anything to do with me. Our love ended the second she became pregnant with another man's child, and this rain had just torn apart the last remnants. A week before I was due to leave for my new post in Paris, I received some utterly unexpected news. Meng Ruoxi had miscarried. Hearing this, I couldn't quite tell if I felt happy or sad, but I certainly felt a pang of regret for her. This regret didn't mean I still had feelings for her. Rather, it signified that I had truly, completely let go. To settle all the divorce matters before leaving the country, I decided to see Meng Ruoxi one last time. Before setting off, Xie Yingying offered to accompany me. After a moment's thought, I agreed and brought her along. The same doctor as last time greeted me. He glanced at Xie Yingying beside me and said with a sigh of resignation, "It's not really my place to meddle in the affairs of young people like you, but you really ought to take better care of your bodies." He explained that Meng Ruoshi had gotten caught in the rain during her pregnancy, developed a high fever, and, consequently, the innocent child in her womb had been lost. Only after the fever subsided did she discover she had miscarried. The doctor also told me something else. Meng Ruoshi's constitution was already weak, and between her recent anxiety, the severe illness, and the subsequent miscarriage, she had now completely lost the ability to conceive. Hearing this stirred a strange mix of emotions within me. She had ultimately lost everything. Yet, in a way, she had also fulfilled her original intention of being child-free. After thanking the doctor, I pushed open the door to her room. Inside, Meng Ruoshi lay in bed. Compared to the last time I saw her, her complexion was noticeably worse. She stared blankly at the ceiling, her eyes devoid of emotion. However, the sound of my footsteps as I entered caught her attention. A flicker of light entered Meng Ruoshi's eyes, but it vanished the instant she saw Xie Yingying beside me. Her parents were still there with her. Upon seeing me, her father, Meng Kun, flew into a rage. "You have a nerve to show your face here? If it weren't for you, my daughter would never have miscarried. Now, she can never get pregnant again. You've ruined her whole life." As Meng Ruoshi's father, Meng Kun always subconsciously ignored his own daughter's actions, shifting all the blame onto me. I had no desire to argue with him. What surprised me, however, was that it was Meng Ruoshi who spoke up for me. "Dad, it's not his fault. I brought this upon myself." "Daughter, how can you defend him at a time like this?" Her mother, Huang Chui, couldn't stand it either, glaring daggers at me. Meng Ruoshi shook her head, pulled a file folder from the bag beside her bed, and handed it to me. "Here are the divorce papers. I've already signed them. I've also moved all my things out of the house. Here are the keys back, too." I took the folder, understanding that she had finally realized her mistakes and come to her senses, but it was all too late. The divorce process wasn't complicated. Soon, we each received our divorce certificate. Meng Ruoshi stared at the certificate, lost in thought for a long moment, before letting out a hollow laugh. "It feels like a dream. I used to think that no matter how willful I was, you would never leave me. But now..." As she spoke, her voice choked with sobs. I sighed. "Let's not dwell on the past. Respect and love is mutual. No one is indispensable to anyone else. I hope, having learned this, you'll treat the next person better." She fell silent, and in that silence, we parted ways. I knew there would likely never be true closure between us. Even after we each found happiness elsewhere, this would always remain a thorn embedded in our hearts, a sharp point in the otherwise calm surface of our lives. It might fade with time, but it would never truly disappear. A week later, I left for my post in Paris. Because of work, I frequently traveled back to China on business trips in the following years. But I never returned to that city. The house that held our 7 years of memories had been sold long ago. Perhaps it would hold the love of the next couple, maybe even see them through to old age together, just as I once hoped it would for us. And so, on every cold, quiet night, I couldn't stop thinking about that thorn stuck in my heart. But whenever that happened, Xie Yingying would always be there with me. She wouldn't say much, just offer her silent company. In that silence, a bond formed between our souls. Eventually, Xie Yingying and I got married. Married life was happy, so much so that the thorn's grip on me gradually loosened. I believe that someday, it will be completely removed from my life. I never heard any news about Meng Ruoshi again. She was like a breathtaking, fleeting visitor in my life, leaving an indelible mark before disappearing completely. Perhaps she also left that city, starting over somewhere in the world to find her own happiness. Or maybe she remained trapped in a mire of guilt, unable to pull herself free, destined to live out her days in a haze. As for me, perhaps one morning far in the future, I might suddenly remember her name. But that's all it would be. We cast shadows on each other's lives, but no matter how dark, even the deepest shadows eventually fade away in the morning sunlight. That was my story. The end.